The rain stung Eli's face like needles, each drop a reminder of the hunger clawing at his insides. At 16, he was a ghost in the city, invisible to the crowds hustling through Philadelphia's streets. For years ago, his parents' screams had driven him out because he dared to love who he was. Eli curled tighter on the park bench, his thin hoodie no match for the November chill. His backpack, stuffed with everything he owned, was his only pillow. The memory of his father's voice, "Get out. You're no son of mine," still burned, sharper than the cold. He was 12 then, a skinny kid with dreams of art and a heart too big for his small town. Now, at 16, he was starving, his ribs visible through his shirt, his hope nearly gone. The park was quiet, save for the distant hum of traffic. Eli's eyes scanned the ground for anything edible: a discarded apple core, a half-eaten sandwich. Nothing. He hadn't eaten in 2 days, and his body ached with a heaviness that wasn't just hunger. It was the weight of being unwanted, of surviving on stolen moments in shelters or sneaking into public restrooms to wash his face. He'd learned to move like a shadow, unnoticed, because attention often meant danger. Across the park, Marcus Reed walked with purpose, his polished shoes clicking against the wet pavement. At 40, he was a man who'd built an empire: real estate, investments, a name that opened doors. But wealth couldn't erase the scars of his own past. He'd grown up in foster homes, unloved, hiding his truth until he was old enough to fight for it. Now, he gave back, quietly funding shelters and youth programs, always searching for those the world had discarded. Tonight, something drew Marcus to the park. He didn't usually walk this way, but a restlessness had pulled him from his penthouse. As he passed the bench, he saw Ellie, a boy too young to be so broken. Marcus stopped, his breath catching. The kid's face was pale, his lips cracked, but his eyes held a flicker of defiance, a spark that hadn't been fully extinguished. "Hey," Marcus said softly, crouching to meet Eli's gaze. "You okay?" Eli flinched, clutching his backpack tighter. He'd heard that tone before, kindness that often came with strings. "I'm fine," he muttered, his voice hoarse. "You don't look fine." Marcus's tone wasn't pitying, just honest. He pulled a granola bar from his coat pocket and held it out. "Take it." "No questions." Eli hesitated, his stomach growling loud enough to betray him. He snatched the bar, tearing it open with shaking hands. As he ate, Marcus sat on the bench, keeping a respectful distance. "I'm Marcus," he said. "What's your name?" "Eli," he mumbled through a mouthful, avoiding Marcus's eyes. Trust was a luxury he couldn't afford. Marcus nodded, sensing the walls Eli had built. He'd seen kids like this before unaways, kicked out for being themselves. "You got a place to stay tonight?" he asked. Eli's jaw tightened. "I'm good." "You're not," Marcus said, his voice firm but warm. "It's freezing out here. I know a shelter nearby. Clean beds, hot food. I can take you there." Eli's eyes narrowed. "Why do you care?" Marcus leaned back, his gaze steady. "Because I was you once. And someone helped me when I had nothing." Eli didn't respond, but something in Marcus's voice, raw, lived-in truth, made him pause. For the first time in years, he felt seen, not as a problem, but as a person. The granola bar was gone too quickly, and the hunger lingered. But Marcus's presence was a different kind of warmth. They sat in silence for a while, the rain slowing to a drizzle. Marcus didn't push, didn't pry. He just waited, letting Eli decide. Finally, Eli spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Okay. I'll go?" Marcus stood, offering a hand. Good choice, Eli. Let's get you warm. As they walked toward the shelter, Eli's steps were hesitant, but something in him shifted. For the first time in 4 years, he wasn't entirely alone. The city lights blurred through the mist, and though Eli didn't know it yet, this night would change everything. The shelter smelled of bleach and coffee, a stark contrast to the damp park. Eli clutched his backpack as Marcus led him inside, the fluorescent lights harsh against his tired eyes. He hadn't been in a place like this in months. Shelters often meant questions, and questions meant risk. The woman at the front desk, Ms. Clara, had a warm smile that didn't quite hide her exhaustion. Marcus, you're back, she said, then glanced at Eli. Who's this? Eli, Marcus said, resting a hand on Eli's shoulder. He needs a bed tonight. Eli tensed under the touch, but Marcus's hand was steady, not possessive. Ms. Clara nodded, her eyes softening as she took in Eli's gaunt frame. We've got room. Come on, hon. Let's get you settled. The shelter was small but clean, with rows of cots in a common room. Eli was given a bed near the window, a thin blanket, and a tray of food: macaroni, green beans, and a roll. He ate slowly, savoring every bite, hyper-aware of Marcus watching from a distance. Why was this guy still here? What did he want? Marcus didn't stay long. Get some rest, he told Eli. I'll check in tomorrow. Then he was gone, leaving Eli with a strange mix of relief and unease. Kindness wasn't free, not in his world. That night, Eli lay awake, the snores of other residents filling the room. His mind replayed the past 4 years running from his parents' house in rural Pennsylvania, surviving on the streets of Philly. He'd learned to steal, to hide, to lie. He'd been beaten up twice, once by kids who called him slurs, once by a shop owner who caught him taking bread. Each scar, physical and not, reminded him, trust no one. But Marcus's face lingered in his mind. The man hadn't asked for anything, hadn't judged. Eli pushed the thought away. People always wanted something eventually. The next morning, Marcus returned, carrying a paper bag. Clothes, he said, handing it to Eli. Inside were jeans, a sweater, and socks new, not thrift store cast-offs. Eli's throat tightened. Why are you doing this? He asked, his voice sharp. Marcus sat across from him at a folding table. I told you, I was you once. Kicked out at 15 for being gay. I know what it's like to have nothing. Eli froze. Gay. The word hit like a punch. He hadn't told Marcus why he'd been kicked out, but somehow, the man knew. You're like me? Eli asked, barely audible. Marcus nodded. Yeah. And I made it through. You can too. Eli stared at the clothes, his fingers tracing the soft fabric. For the first time, he felt a crack in his armor. Marcus wasn't just some rich guy playing hero. He understood. Over the next few days, Marcus visited daily, bringing small things: books, a sketchpad, pencils. Eli loved to draw, though he hadn't in years. The first time he opened the sketchpad, his hands shook. He drew a cityscape, jagged and raw, pouring his pain onto the page. Marcus didn't comment, just nodded approvingly when Eli showed him. One night, Marcus sat with Eli in the shelter's common room. You're good, he said, looking at the sketch. You ever think about art school? Eli laughed bitterly. Yeah, right. I'm homeless. You're not homeless, Marcus said firmly. You're in transition. There's a difference. Eli didn't know what to say. Transition. The word felt foreign, but it carried a flicker of hope. Marcus started talking about programs, art classes, GED prep, scholarships. Eli listened, half expecting it to be a fantasy. But Marcus's voice was steady, grounded. He wasn't promising miracles, just possibilities. By the end of the week, Eli agreed to stay at the shelter longer. Marcus arranged for a counselor, someone to help Eli navigate his past and plan a future. It wasn't easy. Eli's trust was fragile, and nightmares of his parents' rejection still woke him in a cold sweat. But Marcus's consistency, his quiet belief in Eli, started to chip away at the walls. One evening, as they walked through the park again, Eli stopped. "Why me?" he asked. "You could help anyone." Marcus smiled faintly. "Because you're still fighting, Eli. I see it in your eyes. You're worth saving." Eli's chest ached. For the first time in years, he believed he might be. Winter settled over Philadelphia, and Eli's life began to shift. The shelter became a temporary home, a place where he could breathe without looking over his shoulder. Marcus's visits were a constant, each one bringing a piece of stability Eli hadn't known since he was 12. The counselor, Dr. Lena, was a no-nonsense woman with a knack for getting Eli to talk. At first, he resisted, answering in monosyllables. But she was patient, and slowly, he opened up about his parents, their rage when he came out, the Bible verses they threw at him, the suitcase they packed before shoving him out the door. "They said I was a sin," Eli told her, his voice breaking. "I was just a kid." Dr. Lena didn't flinch. "You were never a sin, Eli. You were a child who deserved love." Her words stuck with him, though believing them was harder. Marcus, too, seemed to understand without Eli saying much. One day, he brought Eli to a community center offering free art classes. The room smelled of paint and possibility, and for the first time in years, Eli felt a spark of the boy he used to be, one who dreamed of creating. The teacher, Ms. Rivera, was a vibrant woman in her 30s who saw Eli's raw talent immediately. "You've got a gift," she told him after he sketched a portrait of a shelter resident, capturing the man's weary eyes with haunting precision. "Don't let it go to waste." Eli threw himself into the classes, sketching late into the night. Marcus noticed, and one day, he showed up with a portfolio case. "For your work," he said. "You're building something real here." Eli's drawings became his voice, expressing what words couldn't. He drew his past, his childhood home, his parents' angry faces, the streets he'd survived. He drew his present, the shelter, Ms. Clara's smile, Marcus's steady presence. Each sketch felt like reclaiming a piece of himself. But not everything was smooth. Eli's trust in Marcus wavered at times. He'd seen too many people promise help only to disappear. One night, when Marcus was late, Eli panicked, convinced he'd been abandoned again. When Marcus finally arrived, apologizing for a delayed meeting, Eli snapped, "You don't have to keep coming back. I don't need you." Marcus didn't react with anger. "I know you don't need me, Eli. But I'm here because I want to be." Eli's anger deflated, leaving shame in its wake. "I'm sorry," he muttered. I'm scared you'll leave." "I won't," Marcus said simply. And he didn't. By spring, Eli was enrolled in a GED program, balancing it with art classes. Marcus helped him apply for scholarships, spending hours researching options. Eli's grades were strong, his determination fiercer than ever. But the past still haunted him. One night, he dreamed of his father's voice, woke up gasping, and tore a sketch to pieces in frustration. Marcus found him the next morning, sitting among the shredded paper. "Talk to me," he said. Eli's voice was raw. "I keep thinking they were right. That I'm wrong." Marcus knelt beside him. "You're not wrong, Eli. You're exactly who you're meant to be. And you're not alone anymore." Those words became Eli's anchor. He started to believe in a future, not just survival, but a life. Marcus introduced him to a local LGBTQ plus youth group, where Eli met others like him, teens who'd faced rejection but were rebuilding. One boy, Jamie, shared his own story of being kicked out. "It gets better," Jamie told him. "Not perfect, but better." Eli wasn't sure he believed it, but he wanted to. He started sketching Jamie, capturing his crooked smile, and for the first time, he felt a connection beyond Marcus. The youth group became a safe space, a place where Eli could laugh without fear. He wasn't healed, but he was healing. As summer approached, Marcus had news. "There's an art show at the community center," he said. "Ms. Rivera wants you to submit." Eli's stomach twisted. "My stuff's not good enough." "It's more than good enough," Marcus said. "It's you." Eli spent weeks preparing, pouring his soul into every piece. The show was a chance to be seen not as a runaway, but as an artist, a person. As the date approached, he felt a mix of fear and excitement. For the first time, he dared to hope. The art show was held in a repurposed warehouse, its brick walls lined with paintings and sculptures. Eli's corner displayed 5 sketches, each framed thanks to Marcus's quiet generosity. The pieces told his story: his childhood home, the park bench, a self-portrait with haunted eyes. A small card beside them read, "Eli, 16, finding home." Eli stood nervously as visitors milled around, their murmurs a low hum. Ms. Rivera stayed close, her presence calming. "You belong here," she whispered. Eli wasn't so sure. His hands shook as he watched people pause at his work, their faces unreadable. Marcus arrived late, his suit slightly rumpled from a long day. He studied Eli's sketches, his expression uncharacteristically serious. "These are powerful," he said. "You're telling a truth most people don't want to face." Eli shrugged, uncomfortable with praise. "They're just drawings." "They're more than that," Marcus said. "They're you fighting back." A woman in her 50s approached, her eyes lingering on Eli's self-portrait. "This is raw," she said. "Who's the artist?" Eli froze, but Ms. Rivera nudged him forward. "That's Eli." The woman smiled. "You've got something special, Eli. I run a gallery downtown. I'd love to talk about showcasing your work." Eli's heart raced. A gallery. It felt like a dream, too big for someone like him. He mumbled a thank you, barely processing her words. Marcus stepped in, exchanging contact information with the woman, his calm professionalism grounding Eli. After the show, Eli and Marcus sat on a bench outside. The night was warm, the city alive with lights. "You did good tonight," Marcus said. Eli stared at his hands. "I don't know what to do with this." "A gallery." "Me." "You're ready," Marcus said. "You've been ready. You just needed someone to see it." The next few months were a whirlwind. Eli met with the gallery owner, Ms. Harper, who offered to mentor him. She saw his potential, but also his fragility. "Art is about truth," she told him. "Yours is powerful because it's honest." Eli's work began to sell, small pieces at first, then larger ones. The money felt surreal, but Marcus helped him open a bank account, teaching him to manage it. This is yours, Marcus said. You earned it. Eli's confidence grew, but so did his fears. Success felt like a tightrope. What if he failed? What if this was all temporary? He confided in Jamie, who'd become a close friend. I keep waiting for it to fall apart, Eli admitted. Jamie nodded. I get it. But you're not that kid in the park anymore. You're building something. Eli wanted to believe him. He started sketching again, this time with color bright, bold hues that felt like hope. His new pieces were less about pain and more about possibility. Ms. Harper noticed. You're evolving, she said. That's what artists do. Marcus, meanwhile, was navigating his own challenges. His company faced a lawsuit, a messy battle that drained his time. Yet he never missed a visit with Eli. One evening, Eli caught Marcus looking tired. His usual energy dimmed. You okay? Eli asked, surprising himself with the question. Marcus smiled faintly. Just life. But seeing you thrive. That keeps me going. Eli realized then how much Marcus had given not just money or time, but belief. He wanted to give back, but he didn't know how. So he drew a portrait of Marcus, capturing the quiet strength in his eyes. When he showed it to him, Marcus was silent for a long moment. This is incredible, he said finally, his voice thick. Summer turned to fall, and Eli's life felt fuller. He had friends, a mentor, a purpose. But the past wasn't gone. One day, a letter arrived at the shelter, forwarded from an old address. The handwriting was his mother's. Eli's hands shook as he held it, unopened. Marcus was there, his presence steady. You don't have to read it now, he said. Or ever. But I'm here when you're ready. Eli nodded, tucking the letter into his backpack. He wasn't ready, not yet. But for the first time, he felt like he could face it someday. With Marcus, Jamie, and his art, he was no longer just surviving. He was living. The letter sat in Eli's backpack for weeks, a silent weight he couldn't ignore. Every time he reached for his sketch pad, his fingers brushed against it, stirring memories he'd tried to bury. He was 17 now, his life a fragile balance of art, friends, and the stability Marcus had helped him build. Ms. Harper's gallery became a second home. Eli spent hours there, learning to stretch canvases, mix paints, and talk to buyers. His work was gaining attention, with articles in local papers calling him a rising star. It felt unreal, like he was living someone else's life. But the letter reminded him of who he'd been, the scared kid thrown out for being himself. One evening, alone in the shelter's common room, Eli opened it. His mother's words were formal, distant. We heard you're doing well. Your father and I want to see you. We've changed. Eli's chest tightened. Changed. The word felt like a trap. He stuffed the letter back into his bag, his hands trembling. Marcus noticed the shift in Eli the next day. Something's wrong, he said, sitting across from him at a coffee shop. What is it? Eli hesitated, then slid the letter across the table. Marcus read it silently, his jaw tight. What do you want to do? He asked. I don't know, Eli admitted. Part of me wants to see them. Part of me wants to burn it. Marcus nodded. You don't owe them anything, Eli. But if you want to face them, you're strong enough now. Eli wasn't sure he was. The idea of seeing his parents again brought back the terror of that night at 12, his father's rage, his mother's silence. But he wasn't that kid anymore. He had a life, a purpose. Still, the thought of confronting them felt like stepping into a storm. He leaned on Jamie and the youth group for support. They shared their own stories of family, reconciliation, or the lack of it. You don't have to forgive them, Jamie said. But seeing them might help you close that chapter. Eli decided to meet his parents, but on his terms. He chose a neutral Placia diner near the gallery. Marcus offered to come, but Eli shook his head. I need to do this alone. The diner was crowded, the air thick with the smell of fries and coffee. Eli sat in a booth, his sketchpad open as a shield. When his parents walked in, he barely recognized them. His father's hair was grayer, his mother's face lined with worry. They sat across from him, their smiles tentative. Eli, his mother began, we're so proud of you. The words felt hollow. Eli's voice was steady but cold. You kicked me out. I was 12. I could have died. His father looked away, his hands clasped tightly. We were wrong, he said. We didn't understand. Eli wanted to scream, to ask why they hadn't understood sooner, why they'd let him suffer. Instead, he said, I survived without you. I built a life. His mother's eyes filled with tears. We want to be part of it now. Eli shook his head. I'm not ready for that. Maybe someday, but not now. Leaving the diner, Eli felt lighter, like he'd shed a weight he'd carried for years. He didn't forgive them, not yet, but he'd faced them. That was enough. Back at the gallery, Ms. Harper had news. A collector wanted to commission a series from Eli for a major exhibition. The pay was enough to get him an apartment. Eli's heart raced. Independence. A home. Marcus helped him find a small studio apartment in a safe neighborhood. The day Eli moved in, carrying his portfolio and a few boxes, he cried. Not from sadness, but from the realization that he'd made it. Marcus stood in the doorway, smiling. This is yours, Eli. You did this. Eli hugged him, the first time he'd initiated contact. Thank you, he whispered. For everything. As Eli hung his sketches on the walls, he felt a new chapter beginning. The letter was tucked away, no longer a threat. He was building a life, one he'd fought for, one he deserved. Eli's apartment was small, but it was his. The walls were bare at first, but he filled them with color canvases of cityscapes, portraits, and abstract bursts of emotion. At 17, he was no longer the boy starving in the park. He was an artist, a survivor, a young man finding his place. The commission series for the exhibition consumed his days. Ms. Harper pushed him to dig deeper, to tell a story that was uniquely his. Eli painted his journey from rejection to resilience, each piece a chapter of his life. The work was exhausting but exhilarating. He felt alive, like he was finally speaking his truth. Marcus remained a constant, though his own life grew busier. The lawsuit against his company dragged on, and Eli noticed the strain in his eyes. One evening, over pizza in Eli's apartment, he asked, You ever get tired of helping people like me? Marcus laughed, a tired sound. It's not about getting tired. It's about purpose. You remind me why I do this. Eli wanted to give back. He started volunteering at the shelter, helping kids like he'd been. He taught them to draw, to express what hurt too much to say. One girl, Mia, reminded him of himself, scared but fierce. He gave her his old sketchpad. Keep going, he told her. You're stronger than you know. The youth group became his family. Jamie was his closest friend, their bond forged in shared pain and laughter. One night, at a group event, Jamie introduced Eli to Alex, a quiet boy with warm brown eyes. Alex was 18, a musician who'd left home to escape his own family's rejection. They talked for hours, their connection instant and electric. Eli hadn't thought about romance before. Survival had left no room for it. But with Alex felt different, safe, exciting, real. They started meeting outside the group, sharing music and sketches. One night, Alex kissed him under a streetlight, and Eli's world shifted. Love wasn't something he'd planned for, but it felt right. The exhibition was a month away, and Eli's nerves grew. His series would be shown to hundreds of critics, collectors, strangers. Ms. Harper was confident, but Eli feared his work wouldn't be enough. Marcus sensed his anxiety. "You're ready," he said. "Your art speaks for itself." The night of the exhibition, the gallery buzzed with energy. Eli's series hung in the main hall, each piece lit dramatically. Visitors lingered, some crying as they read the story behind his work. A critic called it heart-wrenchingly authentic. Eli stood quietly, overwhelmed, as Alex squeezed his hand. Afterward, Marcus threw a small celebration at his penthouse. Eli, Alex, Jamie, and Ms. Harper toasted to his success. Marcus pulled Eli aside. "I'm proud of you," he said. "You've come so far." Eli's throat tightened. "I wouldn't be here without you." Marcus shook his head. "You did the work. I just gave you a push." As the night wound down, Eli and Alex sat on the balcony, the city sprawling below. "You ever think about the future?" Alex asked. Eli nodded. "I want to keep painting. Maybe help kids like us." Alex smiled. "You're already doing that." Eli felt a warmth he hadn't known was possible. He was in love, not just with Alex, but with the life he was building. The past still lingered, but it no longer defined him. Eli's 18th birthday came quietly, a milestone he'd never thought he'd reach. He celebrated with Alex, Jamie, and Marcus at a small diner, the same one where he'd faced his parents. The memory stung, but it was softer now, overshadowed by laughter and love. His relationship with Alex deepened. They spent nights in Eli's apartment, Alex playing guitar while Eli painted. Their dreams intertwined. Alex wanted to compose music for films. Eli wanted to open an art studio for at-risk youth. They talked about a future together, tentative but hopeful. Marcus's lawsuit finally settled, leaving him drained but relieved. He started spending more time with Eli, mentoring him on business skills for his future studio. "You've got a good head for this," Marcus said. "Don't underestimate yourself." Eli's art career grew. Ms. Harper connected him with a New York gallery, and he began planning a second series. This one would focus on found family, the people who'd become his home. He painted Marcus's strength, Alex's warmth, Jamie's resilience. Each stroke felt like gratitude. But the past wasn't done with him. One day, another letter arrived from his mother. This time, she asked to meet again. No pressure, just a chance to talk. Eli showed it to Alex, who held his hand. "You don't have to decide now," Alex said. "But you're stronger than you were." Eli agreed to meet, this time with Alex by his side. At a quiet cafe, his parents seemed softer, less rigid. His mother apologized, tears in her eyes. "We were wrong, Eli. We want to make it right." His father nodded. "We've been going to therapy. Learning." Eli listened, his heart conflicted. He didn't forgive them fully, but he saw their effort. "I need time," he said. "But maybe we can talk again." They left with a fragile understanding. A door cracked open. Eli felt no obligation, but the possibility of healing existed. Back at the apartment, Eli painted late into the night, processing the meeting. Alex stayed, his presence a quiet comfort. "You okay?" he asked. Eli nodded. "Yeah, I think I will be." The next day, Eli volunteered at the shelter, teaching Mia and others to draw. Their progress filled him with pride. He saw himself in them, and it fueled his dream of a studio where kids like them could create, heal, belong. Marcus visited, bringing news. "I'm funding a youth arts program," he said. "I want you to help run it." Eli's eyes widened. "Me?" "You're the heart of it," Marcus said. "Those kids need someone who's been there." Eli agreed, overwhelmed but ready. The program would launch in a year, giving him time to prepare. He spent evenings planning with Marcus, sketching ideas for a space where art and acceptance would thrive. As winter approached, Eli and Alex grew closer, their love a steady anchor. Eli's paintings sold steadily, his savings growing. He was no longer the boy on the park bench. He was Eli, the artist, the survivor, the dreamer. By 19, Eli's life was unrecognizable. His studio apartment was a canvas of color, filled with paintings and Alex's music. The youth arts program launched, a vibrant space where kids like Mia could create without fear. Eli taught classes, his voice steady as he shared his story to inspire them. Marcus was a constant supporter, his pride in Eli evident. "You're changing lives," he told Eli one day, watching a group of teens paint. Eli smiled, knowing Marcus had changed his first. Eli's relationship with his parents evolved slowly. They met a few times a year, conversations cautious but honest. Forgiveness was a process, not a destination, but Eli felt no rush. He had a family now, Marcus, Alex, Jamie, MS, Harper, the kids at the studio. His second series debuted in New York, a critical success. The paintings told stories of found family, resilience, and love. Alex's music played at the opening, a haunting melody that brought tears to Eli's eyes. They were a team, their dreams intertwined. One night, Eli and Alex sat on their apartment's fire escape, the city glowing below. "I never thought I'd have this," Eli said, his hand in Alex's. "You deserve it," Alex replied. "You fought for it." Eli thought of the park bench, the hunger, the fear. Then he thought of Marcus's granola bar, the shelter, the sketchpad. Every step had led him here a life of purpose, love, and art. The next day, Eli taught a class at the studio, watching Mia's confidence grow as she painted. He saw his younger self in her, but also her strength, her future. After class, he hung one of her pieces on the wall, a symbol of hope. Marcus stopped by, his smile warm. "You've built something incredible, Eli." Eli shook his head. "We built it. You saved me." Marcus's eyes softened. "You saved yourself. I just gave you a hand." That night, Eli painted a new Paisea Park bench under a starry sky. A boy and a man sitting together. A moment of salvation. It was his story, but also a universal one, the power of compassion, the strength to rise. As Eli stepped back from the canvas, Alex wrapped an arm around him. "It's beautiful," he said. Eli nodded, his heart full. He was no longer the boy kicked out at 12. He was Eli, the artist, the teacher, the survivor. And he was home.